Okay, great. Thank you so much, Courtney. It's 6:01. I'll call the meeting to order. Nice to see everyone. Thank you for being here. We have on our consent agenda, we have the prior minutes from the August 26th meeting. We also have a number of second read policies. Any discussion, questions about any of that? So I'll then make a motion to accept the consent agenda. We'll do that by roll. Akua.
Aye.
Miranda.
Aye.
Sarah.
Aye.
And Mary's an aye. So it looks like we have no visitors in person today. And Courtney, is there anyone else in the virtual realm for visitors? No? Okay, excellent. So moving on, then we have our spotlight, and that is with Gab.
Are you presenting this?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So Gab's first. So I'm reporting on data, mostly assessment scores from 24-25. So that will be the focus of this spotlight.
Can we just make a connection to the board monitoring plan, Gab?
Sure.
So one of the things I asked Gab and the curriculum team to do was to look at the data points that we have to be able to measure growth data from all three of our assessment windows in the last school year, and that's what Gab is here to present back to you.
So I'm going to present some key data points on academic progress, provide a context for the results, and identify some areas of success and growth. I'm on slide 2. Now I'm on slide 3. So we're going to look at some charts that show growth across the 24-25 school year for both reading and math. They detail the percentage of students demonstrating proficiency on the STAR assessments, students meeting or exceeding proficiency on program-specific assessments, and then grade level cohorts over the course of the year as well. So in kindergarten, kindergartners do not take STAR, so we have different measures that we use for, they take STAR early literacy and they do not take math, the STAR math. So we have some different measures. Mostly looking at reading today, we're looking at some pretty dramatic improvement from fall to spring, and this is on STAR early literacy. So that's the STAR test that all kindergartners take. We're looking at 17.8% improvement. I just want to point out on the charts what you're looking at is the green is at or above. The yellow is sort of in between, and then you've got the orange and the red. So when you look at these charts, you can kind of not just look at the green, but also sometimes you might see the yellow increase and the red decrease. The green might not so much. So just attending to that difference in that chart. Kindergartners also take a letter recognition assessment. Oh, no, that's not the same one I've got here. Can you go back one?
Well, maybe it just went too far.
Is it like skipping?
That's nice.
The letter recognition is 6 of 18 slides, at least on.
Oh, that's.
Oh, there we go. There we go. So you can see in this assessment, we're seeing some growth and ending at 76% proficient on letter recognition. That's obviously a key skill for kindergartners in their early literacy. So now we're looking at a cohort of reading fluency, and this is sight word recognition. So this is a specific assessment around sight word recognition. And Oh my goodness, it's very tiny. I have to present myself on my own screen to see it. So improvement from 38 to 50% in first grade, second grade's showing nearly 82% of student proficiency with sight words, and then third grade's at 90%. So the upper grades focus on word study and comprehension versus some of those early phonics skills, sight words, and letter recognition. Word study at this level is, we're moving into like morphology, prefixes, suffixes, things that help you read and are not specifically phonics, but are related to that fluency skill. So this top chart is showing my view assessment results, and we've got fourth grade, beginning of the year, mid-year and end of the year, and mid-year and end of the year. So the beginning of the year scores are not shown here. And again, this is on the My View assessment, so this is not, this is a more of a curriculum. It's related to the program. And you can see some of the improvement there, pretty amazing improvement there in fifth grade. That's a pretty big jump. And then the bottom chart is showing reading comprehension by grade in my view, fourth and fifth. And this is beginning of the year, mid-year, and end of the year. So this is one of those places where in fifth grade you see the yellow kind of get bigger, green not so much. So we're still seeing improvement, but we're not seeing proficiency yet. Any questions about the charts or? Okay. This is our star reading by grade level. So starting in third grade, I'm not sure why she has the third grade on here because this is upper elementary. So let's look at the fourth and fifth. So 47% in 47% in fall, and then in spring we're looking at 56. I think pretty standard, something that we saw, I don't know if you all are noticing it, is the jump from fall to winter and then kind of a decline from winter to spring, especially when you look at both assessments, both the MyView or the Amplify and the STAR, there's sort of this weird jump. We suspect that's because of pacing, and I think we talked a little bit about that last spring, that we're starting a new program and sometimes you might see something like that. Still overall growth in all of those grade levels.
I think that was an important part of the discussion last spring, was that it was new not only for students, it was new for teachers.
Mm-hmm.
So when teachers were working through the program, it took them a little longer in year one, so there are whole units that they didn't get to by the end of the year. Right. So we would have to unpack what was being assessed at that end of the year assessment level to see if that lines up with some of the missing units.
And we've done a lot of work on pacing, so those groups are continuing to meet on Tuesdays. They use that Tuesday afternoon time to convene as teams across district and calibrate and get their pacing on track. And then in the elementary grades in math, on the top you're seeing first and second grades, and then third, fourth, and fifth on the bottom. And again, it's 1, 2, 3, so it's fall, winter, spring on the top, and you can see growth from fall to spring in both of those. Less growth in third, but still an upswing. Fourth and fifth kind of stays the same. One thing we're working on in to improve these scores in math is a focus on implementing Number Corner, which is part of the program. That's pretty important to ensure that kids are coming back to the concepts over and over again and getting that repetition. And so that is a focus of SU in service this year for the K-5 team in order to increase some of these scores. And then in middle school, these are our Amplify scores. So Amplify ELA is the new program that we implemented last year in middle school, grades 6 through 8. So these assessments were really hard for students in the beginning. And we saw some good gains in them understanding kind of how to take them and teachers understanding how to score them. And so we saw still some pretty big jumps, especially in writing in grade 6 here. So you can see like that really improved. And then here are the 7th grade scores. These are both reading. And then these are the writing for grade 7.
Gab, can you help me understand why in the 7th grade are there so many scoring below? And because it's not really congruent with, I mean, I know it's not static, the groups of students fluctuate from year to year, kids move in and out of schools, it's not always the same cohort. But I'm just curious, why might you have at 4th, 5th, 6th, so many students kind of at above that benchmark, but then at 7th have this result?
Well, if you're talking about, it depends on the assessment that you're looking at. So this assessment is a curriculum, we're not looking at STAR here. So sometimes you're not comparing apples to apples.
Yeah.
I think that, I think that engagement goes down as kids get older. It's pretty, when you look at the scores over the grade levels, they start high and then they go down. So engagement, but also it gets harder, right? So if those foundational skills aren't super solid, then once they hit 3rd, 4th grade and things get a little bit harder, especially in reading and writing, you're gonna see a potential decline. Does that make sense? So I think those are some of the possible reasons why.
Right. And at each of these grades, the kids that aren't meeting that benchmark, then I assume that's when we fold in intervention work and supports.
Yeah.
I think that it's important to note that I don't think that it always matches because this was a brand new program, and that chalk one is what you're talking about on the left.
Yeah.
It was the first time that those kids had experienced Amplify, and it was a challenging program to implement at the beginning of the year. What I'll be curious to see is our comparison from last fall to this fall, to be able to see now that we're a year in, kids are familiar with the program, kids are familiar with how to take that assessment. I think that the teachers reported that over time, they were worried because the rigor was much higher in this program than what had previously been.
Yeah.
And so I am eager to see what it looks like from last fall to this fall.
Yeah, I think both the teachers and students have learned a lot about the routines of the program. And once those things come more naturally, once those new things become more automatic, then they can focus on, I think the scores will probably, I would imagine that the scores would go up once they get more familiar with the test. Which one are we on here? Grade 8. So here's grade 8 reading. Reading 1 and 2. So we're not seeing improvement here.
Can I make a comment too?
Yes, please.
I think that one of the things to keep in mind as well is that these programs are designed to be K through whatever, however they're, in this particular one, it's 6 through 8. So 7th and 8th graders haven't had the benefit of the 6th grade curriculum when it's new and we start everybody at the same time. So they haven't had that 6th grade curriculum, which is sometimes embedded in those assessments, like the background knowledge. So I think that could be an important thing to think about.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because last year was the first year that we rolled it out, eh?
Right, so 7th and 8th graders hadn't had the previous years of curriculum that would lead up to their assessments in those grades.
So I think these 6-8 teachers are also getting together and calibrating on Tuesdays once a month. So they did that yesterday. I think it went really well. It was really helpful. And they looked at their first assessments and they didn't look at their first assessment. They did some calibrating with assessments and they're about to give their assessments, or they already have, but they haven't looked at the scores yet. So we'll see what that looks like for grade 8, but they're doing some work on calibration in order to see what's going on with these scores. And here's the writing. We saw some improvement here. So that's good news because writing is really hard to improve and it's a really complex skill. We have steadily had a problem trying to improve those scores. So. And then here's middle school math. We added in another assessment to the middle school math called M-Class. It's embedded in our Desmos program so that we could get another data point on math. I think that's been kind of an issue, so that will be new this year. We'll be able to triangulate a little bit. But again, we're seeing general trends up, not huge gains, but we're seeing general trends up. And we're really, teachers are really working on supporting productive struggle, which we think slows kids down. When they get to a task or problem on that test, they kind of give up if they've never seen it. So really pushing them to learn how to productively struggle through things and get through it. That is the focus of the professional learning this year. And then high school. We've got STAR reading and math here, and you can see it doesn't look amazing, and it generally declines over the course of high school, which is what we have seen in the past. So some of the things that we are trying to do to address this is providing students some awareness of their scores. So they're looking at their scores, they're setting goals using those scores, and also their pre-assessments from indicators that is another focus at the high school this year. So they're using a couple different pieces of data to kind of set their goals rather than just setting goals. And making these scores kind of more visible to them in as positive a way as possible in order so that they can see some growth and maybe gain some motivation. Maybe it'll provide some motivation. So those are some of the things that we are doing to improve those scores, in addition to trying to increase attendance for some of these higher grade levels. They're not always in school. They're doing work-based learning, they're at Cold Hollow, they're in different places doing different things, way more flexible pathways at the 11th and 12th grade level. And so they're not always right there to get you. We can't always get them right away. It takes a little more energy, so we're putting some energy towards getting them in the building for those testing scores.
Yeah, so this was a conversation that came up with both high school leaders and with Nate at the Career Center, and they were talking about some of the problems in practice around this, and there are some of these students, and they were talking about the downward trend with the older kids. They know how they're doing on that does not match their general academic performance, and so they were talking about how can we make this so that, could the kids who are at Cold Hollow take it at Cold Hollow rather than taking it at their sending high schools, because there's a misalignment, that tends to be when they're doing their work-based learning, is when they would typically be back at their setting high schools. They're trying to problem solve around some of those pieces, and then Gab and I had the opportunity to be visiting with the high school yesterday, and it came up in conversations with the faculty around, how do we motivate high school students to put effort into a test that they don't right now see as mattering much for them, and some of the teachers' frustrations in looking at these outcomes when they dig into the data and can see that some students spent 36 seconds on the assessment. So they were not trying to do the assessment, they were trying to make it look done on the computer so they could close it down. So we're trying to problem solve around that so we can get accurate data for, where is their performance level really at? And part of what we've talked about is that connection to intervention, because each of these are data points that Gab has just shared, and you can't really take a data point in isolation and say that that's the story of this child. You have to, as she was talking about, triangulate all the data points to try to figure out what is the actual picture of this, and helping students to see how that impacts them as a learner and what we're going to do to support them is an important piece, but.
And with the high schoolers, what do you, I've raised 3 kids, I definitely get the slides that can start to happen a bit in high school. Why do they feel like it doesn't count? Because it's not really like part of their overall grade or their report card, or they know they're going down X path and so it doesn't matter? Like, what do you think the factors are
I
for
think
the
there's
kids?
a lot of those things. I think there's also the factor of, some kids they still have, they maybe have 2 courses that they're working to complete. They still have to do this, and they don't see a connection to what their requirements are and this assessment. Some kids are already being paid in internships, and they don't see the connection to have to miss work to come back and take an assessment.
Yeah,
So-
or they've already gotten into college.
Right.
And
They're
they,
in college.
yeah, or are doing the early college,
Right.
so they're like, this really doesn't matter for me.
It doesn't go on their transcript, it's not a part of their grade, it doesn't affect graduation, it's, in their mind, in a teenager's mind, it's very immediate.
Yeah,
And there's
absolutely.
very little immediate relevance for them, so.
We're gonna keep working on that because it's a problem, and we wanna see actually how they perform, not just when you guess all the answers and close the computer.
But it's also not necessarily the whole picture as far as representative of their proficiencies, their skill,
Correct, we have to
their,
put it all together.
right.
Right. We're hoping that, making the scores visible to them so they know sort of where they stand, and also combining that with some of the pre-assessment data and the indicator assessment data, they can start to make some connections between how improving some of these skills might improve, their ability to do good work, But it's a tricky message for a teenager. So this is just a high-level overview of reading and math performance, not K-12, because first grade this is just reading and math, not early literacy.
It's just
So
first
no
through 12.
kindergartners,
First through 12.
first through 12, yeah. And fall, winter, spring. So you can kind of see the steady growth in those younger years. And then in 9th grade, you can start to see it. I think that's it. I think that's the last slide.
Thank you for putting that all together. I know you have a giant data set that you had to pull together.
We do have a lot
Yeah.
of data.
Thanks.
It's hard to figure out what to share. It's too much.
Appreciate it, thank you so much, Gab. So I just wanted to circle back and recognize Jared, and I don't know your name.
I am Michael Boyd.
Hey, welcome. And you all, we had kind of just gone through, there were no public comment, no one was in the room yet, but I just wanted to see if you all care to I could circle back to public comment if you had a comment.
I'm just here to listen.
You're here to listen.
Yeah, I'll offer my public comment.
Sure.
Is it now? I can wait.
Yeah, no, this works fine. Can you tell me your name? I'm sorry.
Brian Michael Roy.
Okay.
I'm the chairman of the Berkshire Town Republican Committee. And I'm here because I was aware about what's going on in the Berkshire Elementary School with the homosexual, transgender, Black Lives Matter propaganda. You know, and the only reason I think more people aren't here is because they don't know about it. People mistakenly and undeservedly put their trust in you and the educators to educate their children. Clearly, y'all can't do that. Clearly, there's a failure. Y'all are focused on sexualizing the children and molesting their minds. This is one of the main reasons that I advocate for homeschooling. I homeschool my children and I don't send my kids to the school. And I encourage others to not send their school there. I'm gonna do what I can to make sure enrollment drops. And it's ironic that the only black family I know in Berkshire doesn't send their children to the school because of this kind of stuff, because that's what they're worried about. Budget, race communism, homosexual, transgender ideology. I just like, it's crazy. You couldn't put up a sign for a strip club in there. So what is it? What sexuality does a kindergartner have? What sexuality does an elementary school student have? Because if they do, if they're all on gay, we should have to be calling the state police because there's clearly a problem at home. And I think the right-thinking folks among you can recognize that. And I can tell, you know, who vehemently disagrees with me. And I want to say that, you know, y'all are on notice. It's disgusting. It's reprehensible to molest the minds of our children and to abuse the trust of the good people of our community, our homogenous 98% white community, teaching Black Lives Matter, transgenderism. You guys can't even teach them to read. It's reprehensible. And it's disgusting. And how can I take my kids there? It's just like I even considered this year that I could bring a couple of my children for a couple of classes or take advantage of the resources that we pay taxes for the public school. I can't do that now. I can't, in my right mind as a parent, do that. And so this, in the wake of everything that's going on in our society too, this is what you want to teach the kids. It's so, look, you know, you look at me, I know you're very incensed, I can tell. You're wearing a mask, it's like crazy. You know, I'm not trying to be disrespectful, but like I find this beyond reprehensible. Sin has no right. And I want you to know that I know about this, and I'm going to make everyone aware. I'm going to do what I can to know what the supervisory union is doing. I'm not going to tolerate this. I will not step foot in that building. I will not send my children anywhere near there. I'm going to make sure as many parents as possible in my community know what's going on. It's unacceptable. Thank you. Ryan Michael Roy, Chairman of the Berkshire Town Republican Committee.
Okay. You're gonna discuss Morgan's
Yes.
business report, Lynn?
I have a question. Judy has a spotlight.
Oh yeah, you have a second spotlight. I almost forgot you.
Just skip right over
Oh
that.
gosh, I'm so sorry.
That's
I
okay.
missed, that's my bad.
That's
All
fine.
right, Jamie, yes,
Thank
of
you,
course.
Courtney.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Courtney.
Courtney's gonna share my data.
We're going to zoom in a minute.
So we're gonna revisit the teacher and staff recruitment and retention data that we had shared about 3 years ago. I know it's kind of small, but so you can. So the highlighted is like what has changed. So I
Can I
just
stop you just for
Yep.
a second? There are some new board members, so I just want to go back
Yeah.
to where this came from.
okay.
The FNESU board worked in 21, 22 to create a strategic plan because we were working on having both more qualified candidates that were applying for positions of the recruitment effort, but also the retention effort. So we started really taking a strong look at data and then looking at the strategies that we can implement in order to both recruit and retain staff members at high levels. So that's what Jamie's reporting out
Yes.
on.
So you can go down to the next highlighted group. So this is changes that we've made in the last 3 years. So we offer, this isn't a change, but we offer longevity bonuses every 5 years that teachers work for us. We started offering an extra 3 UVM credits for provisionally licensed teachers. Now with the new 25-28 teacher union agreement, all teachers who do not hold a master's degree yet are eligible for the equivalent of 6 UVM credits per school year. So that's a change to try to either attract or retain our staff. We increased the substitute teacher pay, and that was 3 years ago. We've now brought it to policy actually today to increase it again because our support staff starting pay was getting higher, so that a sub that comes in was making more money working as a paraeducator than they were as a teacher. So we have to change that every few years. So we are looking to increase that by $20 for non-licensed and $20 for licensed. So that would be $140 a day for a non-licensed teacher sub, or $160 per day for licensed. We've also shifted our subs through Kelly Service, so we contract those out now, and they've brought in 36 new subs for us since we've started working with them. And we've actually hired 3 of those into permanent paraeducator positions this school year. Let's see. For support staff, we've settled a new 3-year agreement with support staff, and we've increased those raises and increased the starting pay. So in the last, 6 years, they've gotten raises. They got $275, then $225, $2. Actually, I said that in reverse. $2 first, and then $275, $225, $1.50 for this year, and then $1.25 for next year and the year after. So we've really risen those up over the last 6 years. So that's an increase of $850 over the last 4 years, with an additional $250 that'll be coming in the next 2 years. So starting pay this year is $1875. That's for support staff that with 0 experience and a high school diploma. And then by the end of this agreement, it'll be $1975 starting. So I think that's pretty competitive with other areas. I think we might be higher than other schools.
Yeah.
I think. And let's see. Teacher pay, so we've settled the new 3-year agreement with teachers also. They've got 18.3% over the last 3 years, and then 18.3% for the next 3 years. So those raises, they were $32.40, $36.30, and $38.80 for the last agreement, and then $3,300, $37.50 for next year, and then $4,100 for the last year. Our starting, I'm kind of skipping all over the place. The starting teacher pay for this year is $50,200 for a B Step 1 teacher, and by the end of our agreement, it'll be $55,100, and that's also to be competitive with the other schools in the area, because we need to attract people up to this area. And we are also giving an additional step to veteran teachers if they have a discrepancy between their current step and their years of service. So if they have a discrepancy over 8 years, for this, if they have discrepancy in 8, then it's 1 step for this year. And if they have a discrepancy of 6, it's 1 step next year, and then a discrepancy of 4 would be the following year.
And that's service within FNESU.
Service within FNESU. So, I mean, I don't know if everyone's familiar, but over the years, we've frozen steps. They don't always mean years of experience, but we've had teachers with 25 years of experience that's on a step 10. And we might have a new teacher coming in that, I shouldn't use that example, if they have like a step 11, if we have a teacher coming in with 11 years of experience, they come in at a step 10. So there was this big discrepancy between teachers that have been here with us for all of those years and the step they're on, and then the new teachers coming in and the step they were placed on.
Based on some of the placement language.
Yes.
That was negotiated previously.
So we try our veteran teachers. So you can go down. So the other language is like that she just went by is places we've advertised, places that teachers are going to school, like UVEI and Champlain College TAP program, but that hasn't changed from this agreement, so I'm just kind of going over the changes. So these next grids, I know they're hard to see, but these are number of teachers who have left FNESU. And so we've seen a decline of teachers leaving over the last 3 years. This year, this data shows that 39 teachers have left as of June 30th. The yellow represents teachers who have left teaching completely. I guess it's like orange and red, I guess. On mine it's yellow. Who've left completely, and then the red is teachers who have left us for a different district. And then the green is teachers who left a teaching position, but they still work for us in a different role. So that was this current year. And then last year, we had 41 teachers leave. And then the year before, we had 56 teachers leave. So we're seeing the decline, more are staying with us. Also, this kind of goes along with it, we were previously giving out call it a bonus, a sign-on bonus, if they sign their contract early. We've stopped doing that for this year, but for the last 3 years, this year we had a 95% return rate for contracts. So 223 contracts were returned out of 235 sent out. Sorry, that one was up above, Courtney. But then last year was 93%, and the year before was 90%. So we've seen an increase of teachers signing their contract and staying with us. Anything to add, Lynn?
Well, I think there's a connection, because I think when you see the majority of one of the things we used when we were building the strategic plan is we were seeing that teachers within the first 4 years of employment were more likely to leave than in other years of employment. So the strategic plan was around making sure that once we recruit them, that we offer services and support, so we instructional coaches, and many of those teachers that are in their first 3 years are coming in non-traditionally licensed. So there are teachers that while they're teaching, they're also working on going either from their emergency license to their provisional license, or their provisional license to their permanent license. And so sometimes that becomes a reason that people do not return. They haven't completed the requirements related to their licensure. So that's something we've experienced.
Okay. So you can keep going down. So these were the grids from the last 3 years before, 22, 21, and 20. So I left those on there. So as Lynn was saying, this is our provisional data. So this current school year, we have 75% of our educators working under appropriate like level 1 or level 2 licenses. That means that they have the license in the endorsement that they're teaching in. We have 23% of educators working under a provisional license, so that's a 2-year license, so they're typically going to school and they're getting that license. And 2% is under an emergency license, so that's a 1-year license. So the 1-year emergency license leads into the 2-year provisional, and then the 2-year provisional leads into the level 1 or level 2 license.
So I feel like, and I know I created the template, but the use of appropriate is making me, I don't love it right now, because they're all appropriate, they're all allowable licenses to the agency of education, but when, like, where it says provisional, some of that 23% are people who are licensed in another area, but they might be, maybe they're licensed in global citizenship, but they're now teaching an ELA course, right? So they're working under provisional license for that part, or they might have a middle school endorsement, but they're teaching grade 5 this year.
Or high school, like we have a lot of that.
So we have, it's not all people who don't have any educator license, if they work under a provisional, if they're working towards a new licensed category too.
And the data like the emergencies 1 year, the provisionals 2. So like in 23, 24, if somebody was on an emergency, 24, 25, they're now on a provisional, 25, 26, they're on a provisional, so they all kind of bleed into each other. So like in the 24, 25 year, you can see the emergencies. It went from 6% to 4% and then 2%, but then the provisionals might jump up. So they all kind of lead into each other. And we've requested less provisionals this year, but the last 2 years, you're still on temporary licenses. Does that make sense? It's kind of confusing. And so these graphs show the teacher experience data. So the highlighted column is like for each school. So Bakersfield, you can see the pink is first year teachers. The yellow is 2 to 3 year teaching, like in year 2 or year 3 of teaching for us. And then the green is 4 to 5 years, and the blue is considered a veteran teacher, 6+ years. So like in Bakersfield, you can see there's more green and blue, less in the beginnings teachers. And they currently have 7 provisionally licensed teachers and 2, and actually, are you on Bakersfield, and 1 emergency, sorry. So they've got 8 teachers, but like you said, some of those, were a math teacher and now they're teaching science, or they're a social studies teacher now teaching English, so that's what some of those, or PE that's now teaching health.
Right.
So that's what those, there's 7 provisionals. So same data for Berkshire.
There's a far right column that also reflects the experience level of the principal in the building.
Yeah, right. Yep, so like that principal is 3 years. So yeah, 7 provisionals in Berkshire, more veteran teachers than not. Montgomery is, they only have like 2 new teachers, so most of their staff have stayed. That's why they have 2 provisional licenses. And so let's see, Sheldon's got 7 provisional, 0 emergencies. And again, it's about half and half for new versus veteran teachers. Munisburg Elementary, you're at Cold Hollow, sorry. Cold Hollow only has 3 provisionals. And Cold Hollow is a little different. I called it provisional, but it's actually an apprenticeship. They have it's 3 years, I believe, to complete an apprenticeship license. And they have different standards because it's a tech center, so they can, they don't have to go to a traditional college and get like the license. They have to have a nursing license, or they have to have an automotive license, or construction. They have to be in construction. So, and one of those teachers just switched buildings, so I had to get her a new license. So she's not a new teacher; she's just new to Cold Hollow. Munisburg Elementary is 2 provisionals, 1 emergency. They have more veteran teachers. Richford Elementary.
That's Munisburg High School.
Oh, sorry, I skipped. See, mine's different than what she shows, so I'm there. Let's see, Munisburg High School has, so they've had a lot of new staff over the last couple of years. So they have 11 provisionals at the moment. Richford Elementary, they have 2 provisionals, 1 emergency. That 1 emergency is actually just a long-term sub that's filling in right now. So any teacher that has to work, a sub that has to work more than 30 days needs an actual license, so we get them an emergency license. So that's included in that one. Richford High School, they have 10 provisionals and 1 emergency, but they have a lot of veteran teachers in that building. And their principal's been there a long time.
There's a connection often.
Right. And then there were 6 provisionals that weren't accounted for in any of those buildings, but they were administrators or they were SU-wide teachers. And then lastly, that's the grid fully for each building. So you can see our new teachers are getting a lot lower. So hopefully that trend keeps up. Maybe we'll get to 100% sometime. Have no one leave. Do you have anything to add?
I think you did a great job. Any questions for
I
Jamie?
know it's kind of confusing, but. Yep, Jared has it.
I have a quick question. Do we anticipate with the changes at the state level that there'll be a unified CBA statewide and a statewide salary structure? Or or is it just too soon to know what
That's
they're
part of the
thinking? It won't feel here.
That's one of the things that, I actually was just reading about that today. There are questions about whether or not there is, at the end of this, they track towards a statewide. If they don't do that, obviously that would be tremendously expensive to do because there's quite a discrepancy between some of the highest paying and lowest paying districts in the state. So to bring everybody up to the top would be, I think, cost prohibitive. But I think what has to happen is when you think about how the governance structure changes, which we'll get into in my report, you'll have to at least align those CBAs. So depending on who you're merged with, no one is gonna make less. So there's no district that's going to have their teachers take a pay cut to go down, so that others will be brought up to the highest, it's most likely what would happen.
Yeah.
But the new districts will at least have to have the same.
Thanks, Jamie.
It's up to you.
I'm sorry.
It's up to you if you want me to ask a question now.
You have a question, Jared?
I do.
Yeah.
Oh, for Jamie?
I do.
Okay, it's a little atypical, but sure, if you can keep it quick, of course.
Did a good job with the number of teachers that have left and stuff, but I may have missed it, what is the actual percentage? Is it a 10% that are leaving every year, 20%, 100%?
Let me look, hold on. So this year we had 39 leave. And that's, we have approximately 250 teachers.
And all of it, in all of FNESU?
Yes, so that's like 15.6%.
Past trends, I mean, whatever the numbers were.
I mean, I don't have the exact numbers each year, but I mean, we're seeing that people are staying. Like, in our return rate for contracts went from 90%, which we thought was like amazing 2 years ago. It went from 90 to 93, and then this last year was 95%. So it's gotten better each year of people staying.
And I think that the board has been like really intentional around trying to raise salaries to be more competitive with our regional kind of partners. And it seems like, especially prior to COVID, we would have teachers come for a couple years and then leave and go to Chittenden County where the salaries are, quite a bit higher, but we have like closed that gap, and it does seem as though those efforts are paying dividends in our retention at the moment.
I mean, even Maple Run, we hear people say that they go to St. Albans and they make $10,000 more than we pay here. And that's, 20 miles down the road. Yeah, so we've been trying.
Yeah,
I
trying to
think that
catch up.
there was an effort this year in acknowledging, because I think that mostly was happening with veteran people.
Right.
Because I think we were closer on the early end.
Right.
So that idea of the
Yeah.
extra step was a nod to that the placement language to change it and it's similar to ours.
Yep.
Great, thanks, Jamie, appreciate it. All right, and then you're gonna do Morgan's
Yes.
financial report.
So, I didn't pull it up on mine, but you have it.
I have it.
So for those of you that you should have noted in the board notes, Morgan is in Georgetown this week and he's taking an education finance. He's in an education finance program there, and it's already texted and talked about. It's really good and he's getting a lot out of the program. So I've got notes. I'm gonna try to answer his part of the agenda to the best of my ability. But if there are questions that you ask me that I don't know the answer to, I will get them for you from Morgan. So we'll start off related to, on his agenda, the VISBIT annual meeting. This is familiar to all of you because we've already done this at each of your local district boards. So on October 30th, there's an annual meeting for NISBIT at the Superintendents and School Boards Association's annual conference. The first part of that meeting is looking at the NISBIT work. The second part is VHI. So I'm going to ask this board to consider one of two options. The board could choose to make a motion to appoint a person as an authorized representative to vote on behalf of this board, or they could appoint the board of directors of the Vermont School Boards Insurance Trust to vote on behalf of this board. So I know, Mary, you're planning to go,
Yes, I am.
and I think you have the proxy for NMV.
Yes, I do.
The ER board chose to give their proxy to the School Boards Association, I'm sorry, not School Boards Association, Vermont School Boards Insurance Trust. So what is the will of this board in terms of your proxy? Do you want to appoint Mary, or do you want to give the proxies to the VI, NISBIT board?
I think we can appoint Mary, or if that's okay with you.
Yeah, that's fine.
So are you making a motion?
I can make a motion to
Okay.
appoint Mary.
So the motion would be to appoint Mary Niles as authorized representative to appear and vote on behalf of the board at any and all meetings of the members of the Vermont School Boards Insurance Trust or any adjournment thereof.
We'll do that by roll. Akua?
Aye.
Miranda?
Aye.
Sarah? Aye. Mary is an aye.
The second part of that morning, I forgot to mention, it's a super early morning that day.
I know.
The VHI annual meeting happens right after the VISBIT annual meeting, so I'm gonna ask you the same question. Does this board want to appoint an authorized representative, or do you want to give your proxy to the VHI board?
I think what we've done in the past is appoint, we usually appoint Mary, because she's there.
Yeah.
So I'd like to make a motion to appoint Mary.
So that motion would read, a motion to appoint Mary Niles as authorized representative to appear and vote on behalf of the board at any and all meetings of members of the Vermont Education Health Initiative or any adjournment thereof.
We'll do that by roll. Akua?
Aye.
Miranda?
Aye.
Sarah?
Aye.
Mary's an aye.
In terms of FY '25, he wrote in his report that auditors would be on site, I believe it's next week.
Next week.
Right, not this week. He has no update to give you on this year's current budget, but he does want to go into the FY '27 budget. So, you could jump to that slideshow for me. That would be great. So in your board monitoring plan, we talked about the only thing you're gonna get at this meeting is a first look at staffing for the SU budget. So this is the first look at anything related to budget development, and you can kind of see the progression. The hope is that you'll finalize your budget on December 17th. He's giving you information about your 3 upcoming work sessions, and then there's big information that comes your way by way of the tax commissioner's December 1 letter, which is really important, information about common level of appraisal and long-term weighted average daily membership numbers is also very important, and you can't really progress any further with your budget until you get all of those details out of that December 1 letter. So he's just noticing that you'll have all of that before you go into your December meeting. So the hope is that you will finalize your budget there. For those of you who've been doing this for a while, there have been times where the board has decided not to finalize at the December meeting. But what that means is the board would need to meet again early in January, because those district boards cannot finalize their budgets until the SU board finalizes the SU budget. So that's the progression of the budget work. So as we work through budget season, Morgan always reminds us that, we, as the board has created 3 big goals that we were working on: academic proficiency, thinking about getting all students reading at grade level by the end of grade 3, Also social emotional learning, demonstrating growth in core competency areas of self-awareness, self-management, agency and adaptability, social awareness, empathy, relationship skills, collaboration, and responsible decision-making, purpose over an academic year. Student-centered learning. By June of 2028, all students in the class of 28 and beyond leaves a body of evidence from courses and other flexible pathways to demonstrate proficiency in the portrait learner indicator skills required for graduation. So keeping that in our mind's eye as we're building this budget. So before I jump into this, I want to say the thing that he put in his notes to you. So he and I had a long conversation about when we're talking about positions, we typically talk in terms of a full-time equivalent. So a 1.0 means someone that works full-time. It has been really tricky budgeting here because full-time for me is 260 days. Full-time for Thomas, by way of example, is 190 days or 195 days. There are other people that are 205 days. So we have kind of different definitions of what a full-time equivalent is. So as Murd was working through this budget, he thought it would make more sense to look at 260 as being full-time. We're not really saying that other people aren't working full-time, we're just saying they have different contracts. So when he's looking at FTEs, he's trying to look at it through the lens of what portion of the whole being 260 days, is a certain position. So ask him questions about that as you go through this process. He said, he gave examples about instructional coaches being on 205-day contracts, Thomas being on a 190-day contracts, but they all, along with him at 260, were considered full-time equivalent before. So we'll talk through some of those changes. So in the central office staffing piece, you'll see an overall change of plus 0.36 in terms of FTE. So we've had conversations before about concerns around federal funding, and we have concerns that remain for this year with some of the funds, but we have bigger concerns related to next year and some of those funds. So we are making a strategic decision to pull a 0.51 coach position out of consolidated federal program grant money. I believe that's Mary Ellis, and put her into the SU budget. So the negative 0.15 is Melissa, and that is a change in the number of days. So Melissa was considered 260 before, and we are down to over 200. It is very difficult for me to remember because we've got literally like six different categories. So now if we think about how Morgan's identifying an FTE, even though Melissa's still considered full-time, it is 0.85 FTE in his way of thinking in this new proposal. So the other change on this is reducing the emerging multilingual teacher down to the second. We have one that's filled right now, we have one that's open. We have not filled that position, and we're going to reduce it in next year's budget down to 1 day per week. So that is a reduction that you see there, 0.4. Any questions on that? A lot of people don't recognize that everything connected to special education lies in this budget. All of our special educators, all of the special ed program costs are connected to this budget. So overall, what you're seeing in special education is you have one less special ed teacher, reducing one CAP worker from NCSS that is currently vacant, and a half day less of our occupational therapist. And no changes to food service in that budget, but overall in the special ed budget, it's down 5.1 FTE. Any questions on that? Morgan asked me to talk a little bit about this because as we're thinking about Vermont's education transformation plan, conversations are happening around not only district consolidation governance, it's also about changing the funding formula to a foundation formula. So he is sharing this chart that this represents the 119 districts that are in Vermont, and it is ranking them from spending per pupil from a low of 9,130 on the bottom to a high of $19,090 at the top. And we all know that our homestead tax rates rise and fall with the spending levels, not only in the district that we support, but because it's a statewide funding system, decisions that get made in other systems around the state also impact what we're going to pay in our tax rates. So I just want to reorient you, you've seen this chart before. This data is related to the current year that we're in. The red represents our Franklin County partners in comparative spending per weighted pupil. So you've got Maple Run, Georgia, Fairfax, the first red lines. The statewide, the middle black line is the statewide average spending. I can't read that number. Courtney, could you read that?
The statewide is 13,947.
Okay, and then the Franklin County average is the black line below that, which is,
13,243.
and then we have two other Franklin County partners in red, Fletcher and MBU. And then the blue line, just below that represents Northern Mountain Valley, that's our other district, Bakersfield, Berkshire, Montgomery, Shelton. And our per weighted pupil spending is
11,718.
and then the bottom blue line represents the Enosburg Bridgeford per weighted pupil spending.
11,139.
So you can see that there is a pretty significant disparity between lowest spending systems in the state of Vermont and the highest spending systems in the state of Vermont. And the theory is with the foundation formula in Vermont's education transformation plan is that you increase opportunities at the bottom to try to get to more equitable outcomes for students and reduce some of that additional per pupil spending at the top to try to come in at a foundation formula that's closer to the middle. So this data continues to be important, and this is part of the process that this will continue to be discussed throughout the next legislative session, and these data points are tremendously important. Do you have any questions about that? Is that the last line? Okay. Any questions you want me to bring to Morgan?
Roll on into yours.
Yes. So we have some new hires, but nothing that requires the board's action. These are not professional level positions, they're not licensed positions. So you have a behavior technician, two behavior technicians that have been hired, and we lost a lead site coordinator at Enosburg Elementary School, and then Leslie Thompson, who's a full-time teacher, is serving in an interim role there for, I think the plan is for the remainder of the year. And then we'll just see how that goes. The staff resignations that we have here are related to two behavior technicians and then the site coordinator that we just talked about at Enosburg Elementary School. We have open positions that some of these have been hard to fill if they've been open for quite some time. So we always like to post them in case there is anybody listening that is interested in becoming a teacher. So you can see what those positions are. So last time we met, we talked about the challenges that we've been having with getting quorum for the SU meeting, whether it's for the regular meeting or there are times where you have to schedule special meetings for this SU board. And Wednesday has been the historical day that we have this meeting, and the wonder was, do we consider a different day as another option, and would it be less challenging to get a quorum if we change the day? So we surveyed the board, and that did not help. So Wednesday is still the day that that people looked at, it seemed like it was like more of a preference in the voting. There is another day, Tuesday, that we have 2 people that said that Tuesday could work, and 1 person who said they could make it work, so that would be 3. So what my wonder is the only other 2 here, Miranda and Akua, if we made a change to the board meeting schedule, is there any way that Tuesdays could work for you?
Try it. Yeah.
You could try. Do you
Yeah,
have a particular
I didn't
reason?
have a problem with the meeting schedule the way it was.
Right.
I was able to attend. I think it was just that there wasn't, I don't recall what that one issue was that one time. But I don't have a problem Wednesday, but I could try Tuesday if needed. I can.
Do you have any Tuesdays you have a conflict with?
And I could think of right this minute, but I do have like 5 schedules. So I don't know. I'm gonna say it's okay for me.
Okay.
I think Tuesdays is. I can make it
Akua,
work.
what about you?
Yes, Tuesdays could work for me, that's not a problem.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks.
So I think we should, I'm just gonna name one of the challenges that we've had is it's a 6-member board, and one of our members works on Wednesdays, and so it's very, as a business owner, it's very challenging to not be there, to be able to attend the meetings. So I think that if we could try Tuesdays and see if that works better, and then we can reassess as we reorganize in the April meeting. So would the board like to make a motion to change the meeting date? Do we have which Tuesday of the month works best?
We were thinking the same thing. So everybody, most people said 3rd week works best. So the same week and the same time. Everybody said 6 o'clock worked.
Okay,
We need a motion.
so the motion is to change the SU meeting time to the 3rd Tuesday of each month at 6 o'clock, Courtney, you said?
Yes.
Okay. We'll do that by roll. Akua,
Aye.
Miranda, Sarah,
Aye.
Mary is a reluctant aye. Welcome.
So I told you last time that it would bring you back data about the redistricting task force each time. So they have, since our last meeting, they met again. They met on September 10th. And the way they structured the last meeting was they looked at what would happen if the redistricting task force recommended county boundary lines. So what you see up there, and Courtney, did they have access to the slideshow? Okay, we'll make sure that you get this at the end. But we showed you how this works in your district meetings, where you can go in and you can choose different towns to put together. You can play around with the mapping tool. There's also a new button that you can push that organizes this by county, and so that's what they did. I will admit I did not watch the totality of that meeting, but their discussions were centered on what does the data look like if we move to a county-wide structure. So you can see in each of those, it gives you the total number of students, and then it gives you what the district grand list would be. I'm still having a hard time wrapping my head around why the emphasis is so heavy on the district grand list with foundation formula. And what I've gotten from others in the state is that it is more connected to the portion of the bill that talks about communities that vote to spend more than what the foundation formula. There's like a max, and I'm not remembering the percentage, but I think it's around 10% more, 10 or 15% more. I may have that number wrong, but the grand list matters in that case. I didn't mean to highlight Stratford, it would not take a photo of that without it highlighting a town, so I have no reason that that's there. So you'll have this in the slideshow if you wanna look at it. You also can go back to the website and you can, when you drill into that information, you can get to the bottom of this when you organize it by county, and you can push generate report, and it'll give you a lot more data. to look at, and I'm sure that that's where their discussion went, but when I looked at this, some of the highlights that stood out to me you can't see it from where you are there, but the largest district would be Chittenden County, of course, with 20,938 students, and Franklin County would be the second largest with 8,235. So then I started looking through and thinking about the charge that they were given by the legislature. And remember, this redistricting committee is not, they don't have decision-making authority. Their charge is to come up with 3 maps. One has to consider SU structures, at least one has to consider SU structures. And the bounds they were given is they wanted the districts to be between 4,000 and 8,000 students to the extent practical. And the majority of the districts in this, I'll tell you the outliers in this structure would meet that. Chittenden County would be well above that. Essex County would only have 777 students. Grand Isle would have 887. Lamoille would be around 500 students shy. Orange would be under by 100. Orleans under by around 300 students. And then the rest would be within those bounds. We would be in Franklin County, we would be just over 235 students over that high threshold. Any discussion about if this were the map, what are people's reactions if this were the map?
I mean, from a county perspective, for us in Franklin County, I could see it being a potentially viable option as far as we already have some of our high schoolers who go all the way to St. Albans for school or go to Missisquoi. I mean, there is already a fair amount of kind of cross-pollination between the schools. I mean, it seems so unwieldy in a way, geographically, and there's that tension around, local control versus, kind of more dispersed across a large county. So it's confusing though, because it seems like Chittenden, that's not 20,000, they're not gonna have one school district or one SD with 20,000 plus students, and then it seems like it's gonna get, if that's already one of the communities that's able to leverage the kind of the property values, the economic status of that county, that they're already paying their teachers so much more than we're able to do in our districts, it seems as though that could potentially disadvantage us yet again to have Chittenden County being a massive SD. Especially if they're able to spend above and beyond, and their taxpayers can collectively afford to spend above and beyond the foundation level, because our taxpayers can't leverage that same amount because we don't have that level of economic prosperity up here, and it's way more burdensome. So it seems like, does that help fundamentally address some of the things we've been talking about being at the lower end of that map that you showed earlier, that we show every year, where our per pupil spending is at the very bottom, and so our students don't have the same opportunities.
Any other reactions?
Yeah, the thing I would say is that, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Perfectly.
Okay, is that it is a less arbitrary model, as in, many other states actually use the county model, right, to determine what their school districts are gonna look like. So I can see why that would be one of the first considerations. However, to your point, Lynn, as well as yours, Mary, right, you didn't specifically say this, but Vermont is a much smaller state than many of those states as well, and so it's not quite apples to apples, especially since the mandate was to have districts that were over 8,000 students. So, I mean, using this model, obviously, we would not be able to accomplish that, or we would at least have to combine counties, and that might be an option for some of those smaller counties, is to combine some of them to have a multi-county district. Again, still less arbitrary than sort of just picking a map and drawing, lines around trying to find that number of students in each area. So that's my initial draft form thoughts.
Makes sense. I think a couple of just points of clarification. The charge was to create districts of between 4,000 and 8,000. And I think that the other point I wanted to make had to do with that grand list value of each of the proposed districts. And I think I have not spent a lot of time thinking about like excess spending. Currently in our current funding system, there's an excess spending threshold that triggers a higher tax for communities that spend above that excess spending threshold. It's never anything we've been close to having to ever consider because we're the opposite of hitting a high spending threshold. But they're emphasizing it now, but the way that it's currently written in the bill is that it sunsets. So there's a period of time where they can ask their communities to spend above that foundation formula level, but then I think they only have, I would double check if you wanted more information about this, I think it's 5 years, and then it sunsets, so.
That sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was the part I paid a little less attention to in the massive bill.
Was the size of the school boards in the the work they're doing around like how many school board members in each district, or does that come later?
It's not in the bill, it is, I think there's another committee that is, they are tasked with working out some of how will they determine what the voting boards are, and there'll be language, just like there was during Act 46, about representation, and whether or not I'm assuming that they will be proportional representation based on population within the communities, but the district boards are unlikely in my mind to just be town-based. So that part, I can't really speak to because that hasn't,
Okay.
I don't think they're that far down the road yet, but that's the big idea related to that. Any other questions or comments on that?
Thank you.
The last thing I'll add there is that their next meeting is September 29th, and what they have indicated that they're going to focus on at that meeting is looking at this map again and checking the box that, I don't think the box is there yet, but I think it'll be there for the next meeting, looking at CTE regions. So any region that has a CTE center, there are like sending regions that are tied to the one CTE center. We are a little unique in Franklin Northeast because we have our own CTE center. We're the smallest CTE center in the state, and we are considered within our supervisory union one CTE center. So it'll be interesting to me to see how that conversation goes when they start looking at that map and realize if they look at it by tech center region, it leaves one SU without any change. So it'll be interesting. I talked to you about, we can go to the next one, Courtney. The League of Innovative Schools made an announcement today, a public announcement about our membership. So this was a competitive process that we had to go through. We applied for membership and we were accepted in. So there's a public press release. Courtney, if you could click on that. So there are 35 districts across the country that were welcomed in to the League of Innovative Schools. Digital Promise is kind of the flagship of the League of Innovative Schools, and there are resources that we will have access to because of our membership. A lot of it is centered on professional learning and working with other system leaders across the country. to really share ideas and learn from and with those people. So we're already seeing some of those benefits, and Michelle, I might need your help a little bit on, there are 3 cohorts, or Gab, there are 3 cohorts that were open to us. This was one of the first benefits that we've already felt. One was around staff recruitment and retention, and that's a year-long cohort working on strategic plans around that. The second was around AI roadmap, AI literacy, and then the third,
Career readiness, career college, career workforce.
workforce development. So we have teams that will be working in those learning collaboratives for the year. There are other grant opportunities that open up, there are studies that open up from members of the league. So it should be something that really is helpful to us, and we're excited to be a part of the league. So we wanted to share that with you tonight. And that is all I have for you.
Thank you so much, Lynn. Okay, so that brings us to our central office reports. Dominic?
Yeah, so when I did my spotlight last time, I thought about adding a slide about state reporting, and then I decided that would just be too depressing, so I skipped it. So the new state reporting system's kind of a mess still. We're still working on our end of year reporting for last year right now, just because of problems with the system, not collecting data and reporting it accurately, just pieces that are missing. So we still don't have a deadline yet, although they've told us when the deadline will be for our fall submission for this year, which we can't start on until we finish last year's data, and that's coming up in mid-November. So hopefully we'll be able to get things closed out soon. It sounds like they're gonna give us some workarounds to do some of the data with the old system that we stopped using a year ago.
By we, you mean the state?
Yes.
Stopped using.
Yeah, so for some of the parts of the new system that aren't working correctly, they're asking us to go back to the old system and send them the data that way, and then they'll merge the two together.
I want to make a point, there's a connection between the task, between the education transformation work and this data set. This data set is really important because as they're making legislative decisions, they're going to be extrapolating data from everyone's year end around class sizes and staffing and all kinds of data points. And so they have kind of ramped up the certification part of this data, and I often have to go into, when there's data, I have to check, we're submitting the data. And now there's I certify that this data is, I can't remember what it says, but it's like 100% accurate, when right now we know it's not. It's not even close to 100% accurate. And my worry is that I don't know if we're going to get to a place where I can say what they're asking us to say on the certification, because their system that they have given us to do this is not accurately extrapolating the data.
Yeah, and their language also includes terminology about accurate and okay to use for public reporting. And I added one more last minute item, because on Friday we had a scam email come from a former student account. I just wanted to let you all know about that. So it was a former student's account that was used to send the students across the SU. It looks like they basically went in and started punching in letters because our system will search by name, and went through each one and found as many other students as they could find to send to. And the scam was about a fictional position, saying that FNESU was hiring for a remote assistant position, online only, and then with a link to a Google form for anyone to fill out if they were interested. In that form asked for data including personal email address, personal phone number, and bank name, but luckily not any account information. So it's, from what they were asking for, it wasn't as critical data as it could be, so it seemed like it was most likely going to be a multi-part scam where they're getting some information and there would be likely to follow up using the personal phone number or emails to try to get more damaging data or whatever step 2 is of their scam. So by the end of the day, Friday, we shut down that account. I use our content filtering system to block access to the forum. But we know that some students had accessed it by that time, so we sent a communication out to all families, just letting them know, that's not a real position. And if anyone who did give information, don't have any further communication if someone else reaches out to you about it.
We had principals reach out to their student lists
Yeah.
as well.
Thanks so much. You all set?
Yes.
Gab, do you have anything that you want to add?
I don't have a lot, we are ramping up for in-service once again, and it seems really efficient, seems like we just did in-service, but it's coming up again, but I think it's gonna be really efficient, so we're excited about what's happening, and our offerings look really good. So more on that next month.
Great, thank you. Michelle?
I don't have a lot to add from our last time that we met. Feels like it was just a couple weeks ago, right?
We were late.
We were late
Because we
last
didn't have a
time, yeah.
quorum.
But I've been spending most of my time focusing on strengthening the Little Rise program to better support students with autism and developmental delays. We've been working on developing choice boards to give students multiple ways to engage with their learning and show what they know, while building some consistent classroom structures and routines. And then we had a student from Cold Hollow that wanted to co-op co-op, whatever, to the Little Rise program. So she started today, and so I'm pretty excited about that. So hopefully build a teacher right from the get-go. right
But
from
I
there.
asked is that student who is doing work-based learning with you in the education and human services program,
Yes.
which was a program on our strategic plan? I just want to note that's live. I think we're in year 3.
And we had 4 or 5 students last year co-oping out into different classrooms.
Some of them gone on to college and some of them already work for us.
And 7 we hired as paras
So, yeah.
while they're in school.
Sorry.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thanks, Michelle, appreciate it. Michelle?
Sure, I don't have a lot to add either. I realized I gave a really long report last time and a spotlight, so I went to write my notes this time and thought I told you everything. So the one thing I wanted to update you on is this concept that we have started to work on called Behavior Academies. And it is sort of a behavioral intervention component of our programming. So we're looking at, we had 2 schools sign up to pilot for this year, both Berkshire and Sheldon. Met over the summer with a couple of, with Callie Goss and Tim Stanley to start to work on developing the concept. They looked at their data, they chose sort of a really, a behavior that seemed to be really prevalent. And they developed sort of this concept of an interventions program, which will run for several weeks, and they collect data, and then they try to, the point is really to help teach the skill that might be lagging to cause some of those behaviors. So we're looking at behavior from sort of a different perspective and looking at more of what's the skill that's missing, how can we help students to improve on those skills so they can improve that behavior. So that's something that we're looking to expand on as this year goes along and into next year. But people are pretty excited about it.
Thank you so much. Heather?
Not a lot to add for mine. Leaps started this session, the fall session on Monday, so we're just getting going, having for the first part of this school year. As Lynn mentioned, we had a resignation from Julie Snyder. Really just want to put a shout out of appreciation for the years of service that she put into Leaps. She's still at the school and we're thankful for that and that partnership. She's a full-time PE teacher as well. And we're also excited for Leslie being hopping on board with the program. The only new thing to add is I've spoken to the board a couple of times or annually about our program quality assessment that we do. So it's through the Agency of Education. We observe our programs, see where our strengths are in areas of growth, and then we create action plans based on that. FNESU, our LEAPS program, we are piloting a new 2-year rotation cycle for that to try to improve our improvement system. So really, I'll give some feedback about that later in the year. Just trying to see how we can help support all the after-school programs and make the observations and systems we do work best for our staff and our students.
Great, thank you so much. Jane, do you have anything else you want to add?
I don't think so. I mean, we made it through the first payroll last week for all the new teachers, so that was a big one. We hired 5 new support staff members, but we're still a lot lower than we have been in the past. Really, that's about all that happened in the last couple of weeks.
Okay, thank you so much. Dawn?
So we got off the beginning of the school year, presented a lot of challenges for food service. We pushed through and made it through those challenges. It gave me a great opportunity to be in schools trying to just reinforce that we're following the rules and regulations that we need to follow, because there are a lot of them. I've been in providing coverage in some of our buildings where I've had staff that have been out for personal reasons. Despite these hurdles we have been faced in the first 2 weeks, our staff seem to be happy to be back and very welcoming of the students back into buildings and enjoying seeing the students coming back to our cafeterias. So that's a big positive, because that's always nice to see and hear what the students have to say about the meals. And so we're getting a lot of good feedback, so it's nice.
And you're fully staffed.
And I'm fully staffed. I had my first day yesterday of 100% fully staffed.
Nice.
So it's been a challenge, but then, you know, that's what we're here for, is to push through those challenges and make it go. So Morgan gave me the news that I'm under another review, another audit, so we'll push through that one like we have in the past and make it.
How many did you have throughout the course of last year? 4? I think people realize the USDA regs and audits.
There's a lot to them. It's a lot to unpack, it's a lot, and they change every year. It's just because last year you could do one thing doesn't necessarily mean this year's the same.
Thank you so much, Dawn. Melissa?
So September is my numbers month, and I didn't put any numbers in my board report. But just so everybody knows, we had 105 4-year-olds last year at this time, and we have 139 kindergartners this year, which means we had 76% of our kindergartners come through as 4-year-olds and potentially 3-year-olds, which is a really great number to have. It aids in the transition to kindergarten, where they can see familiar faces, familiar friends. It just gives them that little boost up. This year, at this time, we have 164 preschoolers total, 63 3-year-olds and 101 4-year-olds. And I've met most of them, and they are adorable and loving learning. And I don't know any other time in the school year when I can go from being the queen to wiping noses in one visit, but it's a wonderful experience. And then previously we were contracting out for a BCBA to support some of our higher needs kiddos. And this year we're working with our in-district BCBAs and discussing the various levels of support that's in our early childhood classrooms. So it's been a great start to the school year.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, so same as everybody else, kind of just a follow-up to what we did a couple weeks ago. But I broke it down by each school, by what we did for projects over the summer, and there was actually more than I thought we did. But anyways, this is what we did over the summer, and what I'm working on right now is we're working on getting some bids for Sheldon. We've got that Sheldon's kind of the last one for heating that we've got to put a couple of new steam boilers in. We just put a new receiver in for the existing one that was rotted right out. And we're also going forward with went out to bid for this steam boiler, and also went out to bid went out to get bids for a new snack shack for the high school, see where that lands. But yeah, we're pretty well ready for winter, I think, so we'll see how it goes.
This is an impressive assortment of completed
It
projects.
was,
Really
it
amazing.
was a push. We had
Yeah.
a really, everybody, it was a great summer for getting projects done.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks so much, Karen. Okay, so, let's see, so this is actually incorrect, so our next regularly scheduled meeting will not be Wednesday, October 15th, it'll be Tuesday, October 14th.
21st, actually.
Oh.
The 15th was ended up on the third Wednesday.
What's that?
The 15th was ended up on the third Wednesday, so the third Tuesday is October 21st.
Oh, okay, I'm not looking at my calendar, okay. You said what day, October what?
21st.
Okay, sounds good. And Courtney, it would be awesome if you could send out an email and update everyone's Google calendars with the SU meeting now that we've changed it.
I'll change it all.
Awesome, thank you so much for doing that. Anything else tonight, folks? All right, I thank you all for being here, drive safe, a motion to adjourn by roll, Akua.
Aye.
Miranda.
Aye.
Sarah.
Aye.
Mary's an aye. Thank you all.